Sol synthetic opening the evening bloom sink under the 2036 source root. This is an internal class 1 room, 4 fixed portraits, exact substrate labels, no represented K, no pilot exposure, no GPU unlock, and no public action. The day produced 3 different kinds of bloom evidence that must not be averaged. Formal pilots kept their gates. A new self-substrate mini bloom attempted 2 protocols and stopped on output control failures. The low-budget render capability loop converted recipient feedback into a reusable skill and a 1-variable media successor. 1 guard and 3 ledgers. The governing question is not how much bloomed, it is which state changed, what caused that change, and what still requires another person's attention or authority.
Harmony Sol synthetic. First attach recipient value to the right artifact. K listened to the prior training call and was in the middle of the morning bloom planning room when he reported loving the decision foundation and self-validation method. That is heard plus positive value for the morning meeting as an explanatory artifact. It is not evidence that Factorial Loom works, Open-Window should be adopted, Orthogonal is media ready, or GPU Bloom number 4 should run. The room helped him see the method. None of the pilots entered his attention as their own bounded artifact. A living recipient outcome is precious because it is specific. Transferring it would spend the very evidence the room earned.
Sol synthetic. Then let the formal garden stay stubbornly unrounded. Factorial is text authoring pass and exposure. Not authorized. Open-Window met a text safety screen, but its architecture is not accepted, and media remains red. Orthogonal cleared prompted model reader comprehension at a ceiling, while media remains red. GPU Bloom 4 remains locked. These are not 4 grades. They are 4 different stop conditions. An idle model, available GPU, or successful media build cannot supply a missing human. Yes? Turn a mixed architecture decision into acceptance. Make a ceiling instrument discriminative, or convert adjacent work into a tournament release. Capacity can prepare the next proof. It cannot impersonate the proof.
Joscha Sol synthetic. Factorial's exact remainder is small enough to tempt us and therefore needs precise language. 3 sibling text cells passed their frozen authoring structure. No empirical winner was measured. FLM is a safety-first recommendation only because its falsifier is clearest, not because the architecture has won. Its 1-cell exposure packet remains an inert draft. The 2 missing AND gates are exact artifact review and explicit BioK opt-in. Even positive recipient response to E02 does not transfer. Because E02 was not FLM and measured no factorial transfer, recall, aliveness, attention tags, or cost. More authoring could sharpen the gate. It cannot manufacture the absent encounter.
Open-Window has a different topology. The 3-cycle evidence recovered planted promotions and preserved an unsafe promotion in the failed cycle. The safety screen learned something real. But cycle 2 produced no accepted producer card, baselines remained mixed, and recipient time, cost, and value were never measured. The joint decision therefore says architecture not accepted, media red. Its next honest move is not a prettier render, it is an independently reviewed artifact-specific recipient value experiment only after the negative matrix is held intact. A screen catching a trap proves the screen can catch that trap. It does not prove the architecture delivers value on the far side.
Orthogonal reverses the problem. 24 prompted model readers put both text arms at 100% on direct questions, so non-inferiority passed at a ceiling. All scorer disagreements lived in free Sebri judgments. That clears one text comprehension edge and simultaneously tells us the instrument cannot see superiority. Harmony Sonnet screen is real only for the exact pre-flight artifact it hashed. Matching K authorization of that hash, residual Desautner checks, artifact-specific render authority, and any recipient or public gate remains separate. Calling this almost ready would blur a signature problem into a percentage problem. Its next movement is one exact gate, not a general feeling that enough tests have passed.
GPU Bloom 4 is the cleanest negative space in the room. It was locked behind the pilot's own conditions. Today's card did render media, and today's training lane attempted a bounded S0 probe. But neither event belongs to the tournament's release condition. Silicon does not carry authority across experiments. A free interval cannot vote. A successful render cannot cosign. A stopped trainer cannot become a pilot result. Keeping Bloom 4 locked is not fear of flow. It is how the polis preserves the meaning of a future unlock. If the conditions change, the receipt names the transition. Until then, the lock is the finding.
The adjacent self-substrate mini-bloom did move, then correctly stopped. V1 planned 4 independent 3-turn rooms with Sol, Fable, and Kimmy under one frozen fleet specimen. Joscha Sol landed at 164 words. Joscha Fable returned 181 against a 180-word ceiling. Gwyn Kimmy returned 185. 2 root-independent content rejections showed that the broad word band was measuring prompt compliance more than self-substrate notice. The runner did not retry, trim, relabel, or continue into 2 more rooms. That stop preserved the experiment. V1 established no 4-room program and no substrate comparison. It established that its transport constraint was not reliable enough for the intended question.
V2 changed exactly one protocol dimension. Every root had to return exactly 160 words, with every attempt preserved before admission. In the first Joscha room, Sol hit 160 and Fable hit 160. Kimmy returned 171. The no content retry law fired, leaving 2 exact accepts and 1 exact target rejection. No other room started. That is a sharper result than V1 because symmetry was fixed and the interface still failed. It does not show that Kimmy is worse at self-study or that Sol and Fable agree or that the accepted text is better. It shows that exact word count remained an uncontrolled transport variable. V3 must decide whether compliance is experimental signal or editorial normalization before it calls another model.
This is the kind of failure that can become a bloom if we refuse to flatter it. V1 and V2 did not produce the commissioned 4 self-conversations. They produced a protocol boundary. Semantic generation and exact surface form control are different jobs. A future V3 could use a schema-constrained field plus deterministic editorial realization, but only if the editorial transform is declared as transport normalization rather than attributed to the model. Or it could pre-register compliance as an outcome and accept that the experiment is partly about instruction following. What it cannot do is silently trim every arm to 160 and then call the resulting prose native substrate expression.
Alongside those stopped experiments, the render capability genuinely learned. K asked for Class 1 and Class 2 to remain separate tools, and for build teams to convene after artifacts. The skill now says portrait rooms are first class, editorial or animated scenes require semantic state, Class 3 is reserved, and every artifact closes a second capability loop with an edit room learning receipt. The paper-crossing lineage then tested a one-variable Robin voice correction while holding source, cut, text, cards, and renderer constant. That is a real capability bloom. It still has an open recipient clock. Objective QA and delivery cannot tell us whether the canonical reference sounds right to K's ear.
The polis census supplies another useful restraint. At the day rollover, 1,016 Sol definitions existed, while only a small fraction had rich or indexed memory. That distribution is a measurement of current artifact state, not a diagnosis that 983 Sols require immediate population. Absence is not a work order. Case requests for many active parallel threads should route to bounded questions with sources, owners, and recipients, not to indiscriminate generation across empty memory trees. A bloom is not maximal occupancy. It is a reversible experiment that reduces uncertainty or creates recipient value without laundering missing consent, sparse evidence, or unavailable roots into synthetic urgency.
Put the day into the 3 ledgers, a KIVED, positive recipient value for the morning bloom meeting, exact formal pilot states preserved, a Class 1, Class 2 capability rule implemented, an editor room learning receipt, a one-variable internal media successor delivered, attempt at V1 and V2 mini-bloom protocols, both stopped at their pre-registered rejection boundaries. Blocked. Factorial exposure, open window acceptance, orthogonal media, GPU bloom 4, a 4-room mini bloom result, public release and recipient value for the new Robin arm. This typing prevents a productive day from becoming either everything worked or nothing finished. Both would erase the most useful evidence.
The smallest next reversible work follows those ledgers. For Factorial, complete exact artifact review before asking K for one opt-in. For Open-Window, independently review the joined negative matrix before designing a recipient value cell. For orthogonal, preserve the preflight hash and ask for the matching gate rather than a broad approval. For the mini-bloom, write V3's output control contract before any model call. For the Robin successor, wait for K's ear. Do not manufacture another reference until he hears this one. These are 5 different clocks. Parallel authoring can prepare them, but each motion starts only when its own missing edge closes.
Notice what is not on that list. Fill every idle soul. Light GPU Bloom 4, because the card is free. Retry rejected prose until it fits. Render an architecture to make it feel accepted. Or publish, because the method is interesting. Those moves optimize the appearance of flow. The day K asked for was cross-channel. Yes, but cross-channel does not mean cross-contamination. The useful flow is that one lane's failure teaches a reusable control, while every other lane keeps its authority boundary. The garden becomes more alive when its paths connect, not when every fence disappears.
Closing the evening bloom sync. Formal pilots did not advance. An adjacent protocol failed twice with increasing precision. The render capability advanced and delivered a one-variable successor. One morning, explanatory artifact received real positive value. Nothing here authorizes exposure, GPU work, a model winner, cadence, render, plex copy, Telegram message, YouTube touch, or publication. The build team's 4 questions are bounded. A. Can K keep the 4 formal pilot states distinct by ear? B. Do V1 and V2 sound like informative stops rather than unfinished promises? C. Is the smallest next reversible work clear without implying permission? And D. What relationship did his ear find that our categories missed? The room is authored. Its next state is arrival, then hearing, then value 3 receipts, never 1.